This is a CJSR podcast.
Volunteer-powered,
Listener-supported,
campus and community
radio.
podcast. Radio and podcasts.
That might not be true. I just know that there's sour cherries in there and they taste really good.
Hi everyone, my name is Katelin Karbonik and you're listening to That's Food from CJSR, revealing the story of Edmonton's food, one meal at a time. I'm here today to talk to you about Ukrainian food. Like many people of European descent around Edmonton, I am part Ukrainian. I'm not even sure what generation I am, but I do know that the Ukrainian side of my family has been in Canada since about 1900. There have been many waves of Ukrainian immigration to the prairies since then. I don't have a super strong connection with my Ukrainian heritage. The Ukrainian food I have experienced is mostly pierogies and borscht, which are great. Shout out to Chimo. Did you know that Chimo is a local Edmonton-based company? But I feel like there has to be more to it than that. My question for today's episode is, what is Ukrainian food? To answer this question, I reached out to Christina Strilets, a first-generation Ukrainian from here in Edmonton, and possibly the most Ukrainian person I have ever met.
Yeah, so my name is Christina Strilets. In Ukrainian, that's Christina Strilets, and I'm a third-year engineering physics student at the University of Alberta. I eat a lot of Ukrainian food as a first-generation Ukrainian immigrant who's also spent a lot of time in Ukraine as well. So I've tried a lot of Ukrainian food and like eating it all the time. So yeah. That's me. Also, my pronouns are she, her. But yeah, both my parents are from Western Ukraine. They're both from separate regions. So my mom's from, I believe, the westernmost province because it borders with Poland. So she's from Lvivska Oblast, and she's from a small village called Mistechov. And my dad's from Western Central, more-esque region of Ukraine. And I believe the province my dad's from borders with Romania, or very close to bordering with Romania. So he's from Ternopilska Oblast, and he's from a small town called Borscht. So yeah, I'm proudly Ukrainian. I speak Ukrainian. I'm not super fluent, but I try really hard, enough to hold conversations with my family members and stuff. And I would go to Ukraine every summer to, stay with my Ukrainian relatives and get to know them. So every summer for 2 to 3 months, I would spend in Ukraine. And then here in Edmonton, I've been involved with a lot of local Ukrainian organizations. I'm heavily involved in a lot of the Ukrainian events that happen in the community. As a kid, I did Ukrainian dancing. I went to Ukrainian Saturday school. I did the Ukrainian bilingual program. I sing, and also as a kid, I did Ukrainian drama group. And now I perform with a Ukrainian music ensemble that sings traditional Ukrainian folklore music. And yeah. And then I'm also a part of an orchestra where we play Ukrainian traditional music. So yeah, that's me and my background.
I'm curious, what's it like being a first-generation Ukrainian immigrant in Edmonton?
I mean, in Edmonton, there's a really strong Ukrainian community, which is really nice. Just because we have more than one community hall and stuff. We have 2 in Edmonton, so it's a very strong Ukrainian community. We also have the Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies here at the University of Alberta. We have just so many Ukrainian organizations and stuff here. So yeah, it's quite nice.
Sounds like you have a really diverse experience of Ukraine and Ukrainian culture.
Yeah, so I would say I've definitely had tried both a lot of the Canadian diaspora experience and the in Ukraine experience. So I would say, yeah, it's a pretty unique position to be in. I don't get the entire Ukrainian culture because I would only spend the summertime in Ukraine, and I would spend it with my relatives. So I'm not necessarily, every year I go and there's new lingo and slang words, just like there are in any language that, you need to catch up to. But yeah, it's definitely like a unique experience of Ukrainian culture.
What sort of foods did you grow up eating?
So, growing up, my dad mostly cooked. He would cook like non-traditional foods. He would just cook stuff that, kids would eat. Um, so I had like, frozen pierogies and like pelmeni, which are like the Russian meat dumplings from the Russian import store. And then because I also spent like 2 to 3 months of my childhood in Ukraine, my paternal grandmother is a really great chef, so I would, you know, when you're in Ukraine, you're gonna eat Ukrainian food. So I definitely, my favorite soup still to this day is borscht, which is, I believe it's Ukraine's national dish. It's a beet soup, and there's many ways you can cook it. My dad's actually from a town called Borscht, so it kind of gets its namesake from the dish. And my grandma makes really good borscht, and I know sometimes my dad will make it or my mom will make it, either or. So grew up eating like borscht. I like Ukrainian foods. As a kid, I was very, very picky eater for some reason. So my parents had to cook bland rice and be happy that their child ate. It took me getting like to my teen years to eat some like non super boring food. But when I was in Ukraine, there wasn't as much of an option for me to be super picky, but I also would just eat like plain noodles because I don't know, I was a child. But I do remember as a kid still really, really loving like borscht. It's my favorite thing still. And in Ukraine, I remember as a kid, I really loved going to Pozata Chata. It's not like the most authentic. Ukrainian people listening to this will be like, it's Pozata Chata, but it's like a cafeteria place where they have like Ukrainian food. So I really liked going there, and they had like a wide variety of Ukrainian foods. Like there's this dish where it's like a crepe stuffed with, it has like a meat in it and it's folded into a triangle and like you fry it in an egg batter. I don't really know if it's Ukrainian food, but I ate it in Ukraine and my grandma made it. She called them croquette. Other people call them other things, but I really like those. So I ate a lot of those growing up as a kid. Ate a lot of beet soup, pierogies, and then like I said, I also didn't only just eat Ukrainian foods. I ate like whatever,
Yeah.
pasta, chicken, rice.
So yeah, because you have such a cool, like, unique Ukrainian perspective, how would you describe like Western Ukrainian food versus Eastern? Or how would you describe how things are different across Ukraine from what you know?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know that much about Central and Eastern Ukraine because none of my relatives live there. So I can speak to Western Ukrainian food, and other Ukrainians from other regions will be like, we don't eat it that way. So there's your differences. But I
Doesn't have to be
mean,
specific, it can
it's
be
not,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah, just I don't know, even like generally, everybody just like puts in different ingredients in different dishes, and everyone swears that their way is the right way to make a certain dish or whatever. So, like, I know when you're making borscht, which is the beet soup, you need to add some sort of acid to the soup to brighten up the beet soup.
Mhm.
And so I know my mom and where my mom's from in their village, they like adding lemon to brighten up the soup, like lemon juice. And I know how my grandma makes it in like her part of Western Ukraine. She does it with like tomatoes to add in the acid. She prefers like the flavor of it that way, and it's just prepared slightly differently. Obviously, usually the soup is just kind of made with what you have available, not any particular way unless it's for a major holiday or something like that. But yeah, every like it even varies like family to family. Like there is a traditional we call you the English translation is wheat porridge that we eat for Christmas dinner. And like for example, my mom makes it and serves it and we eat it cold, and my aunt, her sister, serves it warm. So, and like it's hard to say like any specific differences. Like the foods are pretty similar. I'm sure there are differences in like Eastern Ukraine and Central Ukraine. I just really haven't had as much of an opportunity to be there and like know what the difference is.
What would
Yeah.
you describe a typical Prairie banquet, Ukrainian banquet meal?
Yeah, sure. So you would
Someone
have
maybe never had it before.
Yeah, so you would have like pierogies that just or like kind of what you get at an Ukrainian festival. You'll have pierogies with like potato and cheddar in them. That's always the classic one. And then you have sausage, some sort of sausage, and sour cream and like onions. And if the place is like the banquet hall is like adventurous and testing the public's taste, they might add some sort of like sauerkraut, but that isn't so often. But they'll also have cabbage rolls usually. Sometimes they'll have them with meat, sometimes they'll have them without meat. So I'd say that's like the classic like Ukrainian platter you get anywhere. And then I would say like from that, just in general, Ukrainian pierogies, you can have like pretty much any filling in them. So I would say that's kind of like a main difference here. People kind of only stick to like potato and cheddar, and that's pretty much it. I know at home we make our own sauerkraut, so we do sauerkraut filled pierogies, and yeah, those are really good. And we also do, pierogies with potato. There's nothing wrong with potato cheddar. It's fine. It's great. Just there's so much more. People here also have pierogies with blueberries. Blueberries people don't grow them in Ukraine because they just weren't there. So we usually make them with sour cherries. But yeah, so yeah, there's like lots of different types of pierogies, which I would say is kind of a difference. They kind of tend to be more on a monolithic side here, but I guess it's just to appeal to a wide audience of people. But I know a story. My sister went to the Ukrainian mountains once. Unfortunately, I wasn't there. I need to go one day there with her. And she talked about they went to this restaurant in the mountains and they had pierogies with like pretty much every filling there, and like you paid for your food by like weight of like the different pierogies you got. So yeah, it was just like a restaurant just with a bunch of different pierogies in them. So yeah, that would be like the main thing. And then also they have borscht usually too at a typical banquet hall. Sorry, weird tangents, but yeah.
So tell me about sour cherry pierogies. You mentioned them.
Yeah, so it's a really popular dish to have in the summertime in Ukraine, and kind of like as a dessert pierogi. So yeah, you just kind of pit sour cherries, and you put them in pierogies and you boil them. I think I can't. I should have confirmed this before this. Sometimes you add like a bit of sugar to the cherries, so you get the good juices flowing, and you usually have them with like some sour cream and maybe some sugar sprinkled on top or something like that. They're really, really good. And yeah, they're just pierogies with like sour cherries inside of them. I think they're really good. They remind me of like warm summer days because my grandma would make them. They're very nice. They're very nice
That
too.
sounds so good to me. And they also seem like, because you said that they're more popular in Ukraine, right?
Yeah, I would say they're more popular in Ukraine. It's not something you would typically get like at a banquet hall here or something.
Yeah, but I also feel like they would just fit so perfectly.
They would. They would. Mm-hmm.
We grow so many sour cherries here.
Yeah. It would be like a really good fit, I think. And then someone's probably going to listen to this and be like, wow, this girl doesn't know how to make anything. She said you put sugars with the cherries before you put them in the pierogi. So that might not be true. I just know that there's sour cherries in there and they taste really good. But yeah, I think with like banquet hall and like stuff at like Heritage Days and stuff, you just want to make sure like that the food sells and that people consume it. So they try to go for the most like generalized things as you can that like the public will enjoy the most. Although I do wish stuff like sour cherries would be there, sour cherry pierogies would be there because they're really good.
Yeah, I guess they're going for like what people consider to be classic Ukrainian food.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or whatever that is here.
Yes.
I don't know. I think we should probably
we should all be more adventurous with our palates and try something different.
Maybe we can set up a stand at Heritage Days and make sour cherry
And
pierogies.
pierogies. Oh, yeah, it's like a workshop. That's a good idea. Oh, I would just like to say that Edmonton recently, we opened up Malina Bakery, which is the Ukrainian bakery where they serve they serve really good cakes, but they also serve like classic Ukrainian like street foods and like pastries and stuff. So I would really highly recommend that to anyone in Edmonton to check out Malina Bakery and the different stuff they have. Like they actually sell potato pancakes, which is cool, and they sell like beet soup and stuff, and they sell pierogies and stuff, but they also sell like classic Ukrainian street foods, which is really nice. So they have these things called pirishki, which are just these buns, like these bread buns, and they have different fillings filled in them. I know the owners are from central Ukraine, and that like the dough they use to make their pirishki are from their like the owner's grandmother's recipe for that dough. It's really good. It's like very classic street food dough. I highly, highly recommend it because if you want to try something if you've had pierogies and you've had cabbage rolls and you want to try something different, that's something I would really recommend.
I guess what I thought was interesting was how there's so much diversity in Ukrainian.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But there's also a lot of opinions.
There's a lot of opinions. Everyone has their opinion on what is quote unquote the right way to make a certain dish or what is quote unquote canon, so to speak, in certain dishes. But I've learned to realize that it's so dependent on where you're from and to not kind of like gatekeep that opinion and just to be more open and broad and just kind of be like, yeah, they make it that way. I make it my way. Both are good and both are Ukrainian and they're both the right way to do it. They're just different ways. So yeah, I wish everyone had that opinion, but I mean, I guess it's not the worst thing to argue about.
Yeah. I guess at some point it can be. I find it kind of charming when people argue over things like food.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, and I'm like, nice, like not the most like serious argument in the world.
So, what is Ukrainian food? Well, it turns out that the answer is not really cut and dry. Ukrainian food is super diverse, with differences between regions and even sometimes disagreements between family members about what is the best way to make a particular dish. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm not super involved in my Ukrainian heritage. Most of the time, I feel like a pretty terrible Ukrainian. However, it is super nice to know how rich and diverse Ukrainian cuisine is. Mostly, I think that Ukrainian food is delicious, and I'm excited to explore more diverse Ukrainian cuisine. And that's it for this episode of That's Food. Today's episode was produced by me, Katelin Karbonik, with help from the That's Food team. Our music is by Doug Hoyer. You can find all of our episodes on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and on our website, that'sfood.transistor.fm. You can contact us at that'sfood@cjsr.com. We are That's Food CJSR on Facebook and Instagram. That's Food is produced at CJSR in Edmonton, on Treaty 6 territory. But is it food? That's food!
That's
food!
Sorry, I didn't.
Again, yeah, I'm not counting down. I'm not counting it down.
Wait,
Too
we're not
much.
counting?